Greetings, everyone. I thought some of you would like to cozy up with old Wolfman with a new segment I'm going to call Dear Wolfie. Dear Wolfie, who are the most skilled MMA fighters that you have trained with? Well, that's an interesting question. And by most skilled, I'm going to have to lead the list to the UFC champions that I've trained with. And I'm probably forgetting some. Considering I've trained with, I'm guesstimating 600 to 700 top fighters that have fought in major organizations around the world. It's hard to narrow things down, but I'm going to try to narrow some things down in this Dear Wolfie list. So starting off with my training with Dan the Beast Severn. Of course, multiple UFC champion, super fight champion, heavyweight champion. Dan the Beast was the first wrestler in MMA, basically, in no-holds-barred fighting to dominate. That ushered in the eras of likes of Don Fry, Mark Coleman, Mark Kerr, Kevin Randleman, etc. and so forth. So Dan the Beast was my first famous coach, and he just had the wrestling control to dominate and really start ground and pound. While Coleman became the godfather of ground and pound with his nasty headbutts before they were outlawed on him, Severn was really the first guy to drop knees on people's heads from side mounts and grind on them and put forearms on their throats and things of that nature. So first off, Dan the Beast gets a shout out. Next up, Tito Ortiz, who I want to train with when he was champion. And, Tito was nailing it. Everybody with ground and pound, especially in the guard, great at landing elbows in the guard. Really that team punishment style. When he invited me to join Team Punishment after doing a week tryout earlier in the summer. Tito Ortiz was pretty skilled at beating butt back in the day. And then even has had a very good late career resurgence. Also, nobody knows. Tito had a good knee bar and a good triangle choke, even back in late 2002 when I was training with him. Up in Big Bear, helping him prepare even after 5 days of crazy 3-time-a-day training. I mean, ridiculous. Saturday, light training, it was me and, I want to say Scott Adkins, but that's the guy who used to own WEC, not the actor, but the guy who used to own WEC. Me and him did leg locks rounds against Tito to prepare him for the first Ken Shamrock fight at UFC 40. Tito had good knee bars and Tito had good triangle chokes even going back then. And lately we've seen him, actually use some submissions. A guillotine on Ryan Bader. I think there's been other guillotines, a short choke, an arm triangle. Tito is pretty skilled, and his striking got better lately in recent years. Rampage Jackson, king of the power bomb, slamming a Rona, and he had heavy hands. Rico Rodriguez, I sparred a couple times. That first week tryout I did, got driven from Cali into Vegas and trained with Rico. Sparred him in the cage, I think twice, and maybe weightlifted him with him once at JSEC Jiu-Jitsu in Vegas. Rico was heavyweight champ at the time. Rico was the man at that time. Rico was skilled in the punishment style beatdown as well as Jiu-Jitsu. So, Rico Rodriguez. Then as I joined MFS, 2005 I think it was, Matt Hughes was champion. Matt Hughes was the king. Tim Sylvia was then the heavyweight champion after knocking out Rodriguez with taking the leg kick counter with the right hand. So Matt Hughes, very skilled. Eventually he kind of liked me as a grappling partner once he realized I wouldn't give up on him like everybody else did. He even, at the end of the round, I think we were in the corner and he had a double wrist lock Kimura on me, and I managed to defend. I think I kicked off the cage and off the corner wall walked and reversed him. And the round ended, and then he got up and the whole room. He's like, "That's how you fucking do it. The rest of you don't give up on me. Fight," something like that. One of the only times I ever got props from him. But then he started using me as a regular grappling partner. Meanwhile, Tim Sylvia, in all his wonderful wisdom, Dan, how much you weigh? 202 pounds. Oh, that's heavyweight. No, 206 is heavyweight. No, 202 is good enough. Over 200 is heavyweight. I was a heavyweight sparring partner to Tim Sylvia and Ben Rothwell and 265-pound Sam Hogar, who had a cut to make Tough 3. I filmed his audition tape, by the way. And Tim Sylvia was 6'8", 300, cutting down to 265, and taking too much brain damage the way we sparred back then. But at the time, if you're a UFC champion, you got to say, hey, you're pretty skilled. Robbie Lawler, didn't train with him that much. Lifted weights with him once. It was ridiculous. We did like super heavy weights of 8 reps, and like I usually do 6 to 8 sets. He did. I quit at 26 sets of doing shoulders and biceps, I think, with Robbie Lawler one morning. Also funny, after I had pec surgery, sparred him one-handed once. He was also injured, so we sparred with boxing gloves on one-handed once, and another time I grappled him once, and a heavyweight rank guy, Mark Hansen, once. The only time I probably got some good props from Miletich after seeing me go with Robbie and grappling and with big old SWAT cop Mark Hansen, who reffed my second NHB fight. Anyway, obviously we saw Robbie go on to really develop in the later years and become a UFC champion. Banger, brawler, badass. Quiet guy, nice guy. Used to bounce with his brother somewhere in Illinois across the river. Next up, when I did Pride tryouts, I said I wanted to stay for a couple weeks, and Takada said there was some issues when I showed up. They thought I had to pay and go with like the businessmen at night. I'm like, no, I'm a fighter. I should be in the pro training. Anyway, that whole crazy thing happened. Saw the Awesome Pride 19, I think it was, including the Awesome Fight Shogun versus Little Nog. And then next day, Takada-san said, hey, at the end of it, it was a Sakuraba Pauling the Stula thing. Said, hey, when are you trying these Pride gloves? Do they fit? Yeah, okay, they fit good, thanks. Oh, why don't you do some light sparring? Okay, sure, Takada-san. Let me put on my cup and shin guards. No, just light. And that's when the Sakuraba's protege, who I guess they were testing me out, and I was the testing dummy, or testing me out too. They were kind of doing both. Left high kicked me in the head, full blast, and they were like, whoa, you okay? And I was already going in with punches. Luckily, because I was used to that kind of sparring at MFS. And, well, they kept saying round after round after round. People laughed at this story. I call it 85% real, because it was pretty darn real, except they wouldn't let me TKO him, knock him out on the ground. They would tell me to lighten up on Wolfman, lighten up on ground and pound. Anyway, I got off subject, but I fought Sato for 1 hour. Sato actually just had a good fight. He was pretty tough, but he lost the decision in his last UFC fight a few weeks ago, but he looked pretty solid. And I fought that young boy for 1 hour straight. And after 35 minutes, you can't even keep your hands up. It's all tough. But I guess because I think I broke his ankle with leg kicks and checking leg kicks, and was ground and pounding him in half guard a lot. Said, okay, you got the right to train with Sakuraba, and the little guy he does the things with at Quintet, the demos with, him and Sato, and train at Takada Dojo for a couple weeks, and also alternating days when the TK's old G Square. Anyway, Sakuraba gets on the list, not a UFC champion, but a UFC tournament winner. Conan Silveira, remember that early stoppage from thinking he's got knocked down McCarthy, but then it got stopped, but he was really shooting a low single, and then they fought again, and Sakuraba tapped out big Conan, even though Saku was, I think, 183 pounds. So he gets an honorable mention. Okay, next up, Lyoto Machida at Black House sparring him for 3 months leading up to the Ryan Bader fight, which he won by flawless victory. Machida is very, 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 very skilled. I did very good against him the first round. I sparred him because I said, I'm going to spar you one round myself, and then I'm going to be your best sparring partner and imitating Ryan Bader. So the first round I sparred him as myself, and I did some crazy wild things against him. Worked out pretty well. But then I sparred him as Bader. Didn't work out so well, but I think I did help him. I felt my job was to be a sparring partner, so I'd lunge in with big overhand rights and lunge in for clinches and things like that. And he would always not ding me hard, but perfect precision. It was never here, like you get beat up by everybody else. It was always bop, 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 right on the tip of the chin. Also very good balance. A couple times I did clinch him against the cage, couldn't take him down. Lyoto Machida still going strong into his 40s. Next up, Fabricio Verdum. Verdum I first rolled with in 2000 at a barn in Michigan, believe it or not, before anyone knew who he was. And then I sparred him boxing style, I think 3 times at King's MMA. And then, but unfortunately it was just boxing. I wish I would have done kickboxing against him. And another time I did ground and pound just before I interviewed him. If you look at that interview with my faces red, we did ground and pound drilling. And so he's grounding and pounding me, and I managed to survive 2 submission attempts. And the second one, I managed to shuck underhook out the back door off the submission attempt. I got back to my feet, and I thought we stopped. Well, no, it's Verdum. So he, of course, grabbed me in the tie clinch and tried to knee my head off. And as he was kneeing, I'm like, whoa, I got to survive. I drove in with power, put one hand-hander, hit him with 3 uppercuts as he threw 2 or 3 knees. We hit the half wall, and we're about to go over it. And then Cordero, stop, ended us, and about 15 seconds later, the round ended. And then I got Verdum's respect then, and he was nice in the interview. So, Verdum, well, really, really skilled at striking and really, really skilled at submissions. So, as far as skills go, you got to put Fabricio Verdum up there, don't you? Look at his wins, and that his wins are decisions, and his wins are knockouts, and their submissions. Fabricio Verdum. Next up, Cain Velasquez. Only sparred him half a round. But being Cain's long run, as heavyweight champion of the UFC, and now he's off wrestling Brock Lesnar, Cain Velasquez. So I took a train up to cover Strikeforce event. I forget which one it was, but Barnett versus Cormier. To cover it as media, and took some convincing and waiting because they had problems with other blabbermouth media people about injuries and stuff like that. But anyway, like Javier had been around forever, he convinced the powers that be, and he's kind of the power that be, like, okay. So anyway, I go to spar, and a couple days at AKA. And in the changing room, he stood right next to me and said nothing. It was pretty intimidating, and he was fighting a heavyweight fight in a week. I think it was the second fight, again, against Bigfoot Silva. So anyway, I am sparring and with people like Herschel Walker, who also was a badass and incredibly fast. And I didn't know, like 8th degree or 9th degree Taekwondo or Hapkido grandmaster. You'd think he's going to be strong, and he was strong. Like, you knew that going in, but I didn't know his reflexes and speed would be so fast at his age. He was hitting me with stop side kicks, JKD style, intercepting feet and stuff. So I'm sparring him, and then he goes to spar Cain, and I'm watching them spar, and his shin guard gets twisted all sideways, and Dan, I can't fix it. You hop in with him. I'm like, whoa, that's up to him. He's fighting in a week and he doesn't know me. Cain's like, bring it. And then the scariest thing happened in my life. Being me, doing my stuff, I hit Cain with a Bruce Lee sliding sidekick to his gut. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is an old school type gym. That's like hitting Vanderlei Silva with an axe kick. If you haven't seen that video, I'm like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't think that's fancy. There's a lot of pros that if you hit him with something they consider fancy, well, I don't consider anything fancy, but if they consider it fancy, well, then the beatdown begins. Thank you, Cain Velasquez, for not beating the ever-living crap out of me like Tim Sylvia used to. So, Well, he was going on her feet a bit more, and at one point, I won't go into it too much. At one point, he took me down against the wall, and he was grounding, pounding me, but light, because I got worried at that point. Because I think at one point he got to mount, and I think he actually took himself out of mount because I think he was just trying to get simulation in for his fight, like just to be in a worse position to kind of go back and guard. And then I did something cool, and then he countered with something cool. And that's all I really want to say about that. But I don't know. I did somewhat okay, but he obviously could have really killed me back at that time. So yeah, Cain Velasquez, obviously pretty skilled guy. So I'm sure I'm missing a few champions, and there's other people that I'll get my best grapplers, stuff, and obviously really, really skilled guys. But I just wanted to focus on UFC champions or guys that won a UFC tournament. But I want to give some honorable mentions to UFC title contenders. Honorable mentions go to Yuki Kondo, who I, of course, fought and was a long-standing pancrase champion. Back in the day, and not in his 40s, but back in the day, Kondo was extremely skilled. But when he was fast and explosive, Yuki Kondo destroyed Saulo Ribeiro in 22 seconds, bloody through the ropes, before I stepped up to fight him, when literally no one else in the world would. Everyone turned it down. So he also beat Mario Sperry. I think cut him from knees to the head, I think. He also did really, really well going a decision against much bigger Igor Favchanshin. He's also fought Semi Schilt 3 times. I think winning 2 or 3 of those. Maybe all 3, maybe 2. I forget. Guy Mesger. Just look at who he fought early in his career. Gave Josh Barnett a hard time going into the 3rd round, out pummeling Josh against the ropes and stuff. So Yuki Kondo back in the day, ultimate. And of course he knee burned me. Come on. Of course I was only 3 years into jiu-jitsu at that point, homies. And catch wrestling. Honorable mention, Jeremy Horn. Jeremy Horn, overall very, very skilled guy. I'm sure he's a great coach. Hundreds of fights, and 2-time Pride vet. He won a Pride right after. He had already signed a Pride when I said, hey, I want to fight him before he goes to Pride, for all of $250. And, his striking's good. Not the most explosive or athletic guy, but his striking is good. His grappling's phenomenal. And definitely back in the day, his grappling was way ahead of everybody else's for the most part. Had very good balance when we clinched up. Like, I was strong, even though he weighed more than me, but his balance was very, very good. I didn't cut weight. I was 205, and I think he cut to 211 because I made him get on the scale. And they, said, well, yeah, we said 205, but the contract says 210. So 210.9 is okay. And they tried to make it no way in. But anyway, he would have beat me anyway. I digress. Very skilled dude. And honorable mention. Fought Chuck twice, choked him out once, fought for the title. So he gets in there. Chael Sonnen, of course, fighting Anderson Silva twice. I rolled with Chael after this. I was supposed to fight him back in the day. People don't know that. And Chael Sonnen, a very good wrestler, great blast double, pretty good striking. I never did MMA sparring with him. Well, maybe MMA drilling and grappling, but never like MMA sparring. I wish I would have. But we grappled quite a bit, gi and no gi, and he was purple at the time I was brown. Now we're both black belts in jiu-jitsu, as well as our kind of wrestling background. Him more wrestling than me, but catch wrestling background, etc. And last but not least, Yushin Okami. Very measured. Even his last fight, I just watched it one last night. Always very measured, very balanced. People are asking about his strength. He had very good tendon strength, but mostly it was balance. He doesn't give kazushi. He doesn't make mistakes. Yushin Okami, I saw all kinds of famous fighters go into the room at Wajitsu Kaishukai, Wajitsu Keikei, back in the day before that school changed ownership. I didn't see anyone get the better of him. And even rounds that I started to get the better of him, intellectually, he would either get a takedown, kind of rare, or more likely get a clinch and drive me to the corner of that room. If you watch my long video, I have sparring Yushin Okami, you'll see some of that stuff. Made very few mistakes. and knew how to win rounds and still knows how to win rounds and take little damage. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this as we cuddle up in the cold with a blanket. And this became a tale of tales of this old guy who's been around MMA, martial arts since 86, MMA kind of 95, hardcore since January 97, and been there and done that. And, well, maybe you appreciated some of the stories about who were the most skilled guys. I think if you won a UFC championship or tournament, you're a skilled guy. There's other guys who won tournaments like Hoist Gracie I've trained with at seminars, but did I really roll with them? No. So, I think that covers it. I probably missed some people. I just decided to do this last minute at 2 a.m. in the morning. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please thumbs up, please share, please subscribe. Please check out my old school versus new school jiu-jitsu stuff and my 10 tips to run an old school street jiu-jitsu